5 decades after surviving the 1975 assassination of her family, former Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has now been sentenced to death. A court in Dhaka has found the leader guilty of crimes against humanity linked to the violent crackdown on protesters during the 2024 July movement.
We have decided to inflict her with only one sentence, that is sentence of death. It is hereby ordered that accused Sheikh Hasina be found guilty on 3 counts under charge 1. Count number 1, incitement. Count number 2, order to kill. Count number 3, inaction to prevent the atrocities and failing to take punitive actions against the perpetrators.
And following the announcement, Bangladesh's interim government issued a statement calling the ruling a historic verdict. The statement urged people across the country to remain calm, avoid unrest, respect the rule of law. Sheikh Hasina, who fled to India after massive unrest led to her ouster, was convicted of ordering attacks on demonstrators, failing to protect civilians and ignoring repeated summons. The tribunal said her absence from the trial suggested guilt. According to the International Crimes Tribunal there, Hasina incited violence, issued orders that led to the killing of protesters and allowed the use of excessive force on student-led demonstrations. The court held her responsible for the deadly response to the anti-quota protests. The unrest that escalated after her controversial comment questioning whether quota benefits should go to, quote-unquote, the grandchildren of Razakars. In fact, Sheikh Hasina has rejected the verdict outright, calling it politically motivated. An Awami League statement quoted her as saying the case was driven by personal pursuit of revenge against a democratically elected government. She says she was denied a fair chance to defend herself, claiming that she never received due legal process. She has also questioned the credibility of the tribunal itself, saying that there is nothing international about the International Crimes Tribunal in the country, and that the guilty verdict was, quote-unquote, a foregone conclusion. Sheikh Hasina, who is one of the region's most influential political figures, served multiple terms as Prime Minister and played a central role in shaping modern Bangladesh, but her tenure was also marked by accusations of heavy-handed governance, a shrinking democratic space, and intensive crackdowns on opposition forces. Now, her remarks came during the protest there, and the subsequent violent response eventually ignited that movement that led to her removal from office. This was in August 2024. Hasina has been living in self-imposed exile in India since then, after the student protesters forced her and her Awami League political party out of power. Dhaka has formally asked New Delhi to hand over Sheikh Hasina. In fact, the UNIS government sent the request citing the existing extradition agreements between the two countries. Officials in Dhaka said giving shelter to convicted leaders would be seen as an unfriendly act and a violation of treaty obligations. The verdict against her is now being seen as a potential political opening for Jamaat-e-Islami, a group that was heavily targeted under Sheikh Hasina's rule. And with the former Prime Minister out of the picture and the Awami League weakened, Jamaat-e-Islami appears to be repositioning itself in Bangladesh's politics. Jamaat's origins tracing back to pre-independence of India, but its role during Bangladesh's 1971 liberation war is particularly contentious. The party actively collaborated with the Pakistani military, forming several paramilitary groups which were responsible for heinous crimes against Bengali nationalists and minorities. As Pakistan seeks to re-establish its influence in Bangladesh, the resurgence of Jamaat-e-Islami provides it with the political foothold it needs to stage a comeback. In fact, for more than 15 years under Sheikh Hasina, Jamaat-e-Islami was banned for its radical activities. Its top leaders were executed after being convicted by the International Crimes Tribunal for collaboration with the Pakistan Army during the 1971 war. Hundreds of Jamaat activists were jailed or allegedly killed extrajudicially. But since Hasina's ouster, the situation has shifted. Under the interim government led by Muhammad Yunus, the ban on Jamaat and its student wing was lifted. Jamaat-e-Islami has re-emerged as a significant political force and is rapidly expanding its international outreach. A few months ago, it held meetings, in fact, with diplomats and officials from several countries, including Pakistan. Analysts saying this global engagement is helping Jamaat position itself as a legitimate player on the world stage, marking a major shift in Bangladesh's political dynamics. And with all of these developments coming just months ahead of the elections in Bangladesh, many are now asking a rather troubling question. Has Bangladesh entered a new political era, one where Jamaat holds more influence than ever before? President Donald Trump campaigned as the crypto president, promising friendlier regulation, a supportive SEC, broader legitimacy for digital assets. But the strongest sign of fading confidence in the so-called crypto president narrative is coming from Trump's own meme coin. The dollar Trump token, launched in January, has now wiped out nearly 90% of its value. The weakness mirroring a broader loss of momentum across political-themed crypto assets. Despite the administration's pro-crypto rhetoric, the world's largest digital asset has fallen 3.7%, slipping below the level recorded on Trump's inauguration day. Year to date, Bitcoin is up just 2.7%, sharply lagging the 15% gain in the S&P 500. And Bitcoin is now on the verge of erasing all its gains for the year, a stark reversal from its early October record above $126,000. Investor positioning has weakened further. Bitcoin ETFs saw $870 million in outflows last week on Thursday, the second largest withdrawal since launch. Options markets have flipped defensive, a sign that traders are preparing for deeper declines. Liquidity has also thinned, with market depth down nearly 30% from this year's peak, while retail traders remain heavily underwater. The broader macro backdrop continues to weigh heavily on crypto. A short-lived rebound in U.S. equities faded as inflation uncertainty and divisions among the central bankers fueled expectations that the Federal Reserve may keep rates on hold at its crucial December 10 meeting. That reassessment has hit high beta assets hardest. The crypto fear index is now approaching extreme fear, signaling expectations of further sell-offs. Meanwhile, major crypto listings have slumped, with Bitcoin now sitting close to psychological support levels around the low $90,000 range. Analysts warn sentiment is likely to remain fragile until liquidity returns and macro clarity improves. Tiny machines diving through human veins. A new frontier where magnets, medicine and microengineering collide. Where internal blockages threaten survival, speed and accuracy are everything. And now a revolutionary new approach is set to turn every blood vessel into a navigable waterway. Our next story explaining the promise that micro-robots hold. Take a look.
They are smaller than a grain of sand. They move with the precision of a guided missile, and they might reshape the future of how we deliver life-saving drugs inside the human body. These magnetic micro-robots, engineered by researchers at ETH Zurich, are part machine, part miracle. Their mission is simple: carry medicine exactly where it's needed without letting it waste or wander through the rest of the body. Right now, stroke treatment is a race against time. A clot blocks a blood vessel. Brain cells begin to die. Doctors inject drugs to dissolve the blockage. But those drugs don't travel with purpose, they spread everywhere. To make sure enough of the medicine reaches the clot, doctors must give a high dose, and that can lead to dangerous side effects, including internal bleeding. A life-saving drug becomes a balancing act. This is where the micro-robots step in. Guided by magnetic fields, they can swim through blood vessels and steer like underwater drones. They can be directed to move upstream, dodge obstacles, turn corners, and finally arrive at the blocked vessel. Once they reach the clot, they drop their tiny cargo, powerful drugs delivered exactly where the fight is. But this is still the beginning. The technology is in experimental stages, tested in lab conditions and models that mimic the flow of human blood. Researchers are optimistic, but they emphasize one thing clearly. These micro-robots need more testing, more validation, and rigorous checks before they can be used in real patients.
And for the first time in its history, Taiwan is sending a wartime handbook to every single home on the island. 9.8 million of them. Not a pamphlet, not a public advisory as such, a full civil defense guide with instructions on what to do if you see enemy soldiers, how to survive an invasion. A very clear warning. Any message claiming that Taiwan has surrendered is fake. Do not believe it. This is not routine disaster preparedness. Now, this is in fact, Taiwan, which is preparing its citizens for the worst case scenario, an invasion at the hands of China. Taiwan calls it a civil defense handbook. The authorities are convinced that China's coercion is entering a whole new phase. The booklet was unveiled in September. This week, it goes out to every household in Chinese, English, and soon in multiple foreign languages. And it tells the public exactly what to expect. Bomb shelters, evacuation routes, how to build an emergency kit, what to do if you run into enemy soldiers. And there's another important part, one that tells you about the fear that Taiwan lives in. Any announcement claiming that Taiwan has surrendered must be assumed false. Why that reminder specifically? Because Taiwan's National Security Council believes disinformation will be among the first weapons used in a conflict situation. False surrender notices, fake presidential statements, fabricated broadcasts, all aimed at breaking public morale. The Deputy Secretary General of Taiwan's National Security Council oversaw the handbook and said, I'm quoting, "This booklet shows our determination to defend ourselves. We need people across the Taiwan Strait to understand that there will be a huge cost if China makes the wrong decision," quote unquote. It's also a message for Beijing and the world. Taiwan basically wants to show that its people will not panic, will not collapse, and will not surrender their future. Which then brings us to the next question. Why now? According to Taiwan, China has changed its playbook as well. Taiwan says China is no longer dealing with isolated provocations, but with hybrid warfare every day. The handbook outlines scenarios, including sabotage of undersea cables, cyber attacks, inspection of Taiwanese vessels by an enemy nation, and lastly, a potential full-scale invasion. Remember, China claims Taiwan as its national territory. It has not ruled out force to what it calls reunite it with the mainland. And in the last few years, it has steadily increased military activity around Taiwan. Fighter jets, bombers, naval drills, missile tests. But Taiwan rejects China's claims entirely. It says only Taiwan's people can decide their own future. But it's not taking any chances. It is preparing for the worst, clearly. So what happens here onwards? The government will reportedly now run campaigns to help people, assemble emergency kits, identify the nearest shelters, understand how to communicate if networks go down, and know what to do if the island is cut off from the outside world. For Taiwan, this is no longer hypothetical what if. Clearly, preparations are underway. The universe keeps reminding us how little we know about it. Every time we think we've mapped all of its mysteries, it throws another curveball our way. Now, NASA has found a red sphere blazing through space at 1 million miles per hour. Our next report telling you more about this.
The universe is a cathedral of riddles, endless, ancient, untamed. It stretches across trillions of light years, so huge that our minds simply can't comprehend. It is a vast expanse where stars are born, planets die, and cosmic nomads wander unseen. For all our telescopes and probes, we still know so very little. The fundamental nature of cosmic speed limits remained fixed until now. This changes everything. NASA astronomers call it Quais J1249, a tiny crimson dot discovered by a team of citizen scientists. At first, it was just a faint flicker in infrared images, but as the data rolled in, disbelief turned to awe. This thing wasn't drifting, it was racing. Its measured speed, 1 million miles per hour, nearly 283 miles per second. That's more than twice the Milky Way's escape velocity. Imagine a world hurled through the galaxy with enough fury to cross the Earth-Moon distance in just 15 minutes. It's not just speed, it's survival in motion. Astronomers believe it might be the remnant of a dying star, a fragment flung out by a supernova explosion, stripped of metals and heat, now wandering alone across the dark vacuum. Astronomers are scrambling to classify the object. What force propels it? Is it a hypervelocity star, ripped from the violence of a galactic core, or something far stranger, perhaps a residual artifact of a colossal, unseen explosion? The unique red spectral signature suggests intense heat or a composition never before catalogued, adding yet another layer to the mystery. Quais J1249's discovery recalls 3I Atlas, another cosmic drifter that entered our solar neighborhood, stirring debate about interstellar visitors. Could these be pieces of ancient worlds, expressions of stellar death, or just the universe shedding its secrets? Even after decades of exploration, the universe still humbles us. A red sphere, racing at impossible speed, reminding humanity that out there, something always moves faster than our understanding. Bureau Report, WION World is one.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.